let's take a look at the first talk that's going to be about preserving a decentralized reputation for the Interchain. So please give a big applause to Chief Technology Officer at cheqd, Ankur Banerjee.
Good morning, everyone. And you got that right, so
Thank you.
good. So hi, my name is Ankur Banerjee. I'm the CTO and co-founder at cheqd, which is a Cosmos chain built around decentralized identity. And what I wanted to talk to you about today is a project that we've been working on for the past few months called creds.xyz, which is a zero-knowledge and privacy-preserving solution for decentralized reputation. But what do I mean by that? What is social reputation in Web3? The simplest explanation of that is, if you look at it, most Web3 users are known by their handles on social media or chains. So if you take a look at some of these examples over here, the .eth handles, or more recently on Cosmos, you've got other handles as well. But I've got a question for, this is an interactive bit. Out of the two options that you see on screen, which is Ethereum founders Vitalik Buterin's real ETH handle? How many of you in the audience think it's option number one? Show of hands. Okay. How many of you think it's option number two? That's the real one? It's not. The second one is a kind of text which looks like those characters in English, but isn't actually. It's from other character sets in other languages. It's a kind of attack called a Punycode domain. The real text is what you see on screen. You can scan the QR code if you want to read up more about it. But the interesting thing here is, if people are known by their social handles on chain and you cannot visually distinguish it, that's how a lot of imposter accounts get created. And how big is the usage of this? Well, there's about 2.76 million, at least from the ENS project, Ethereum name systems out there. And even in Cosmos, which is the chain that we're building on, there's a project called the Interchain name system, ICNS, that has about 48,000 users, probably a lot of the early adopters within the Cosmos SDK ecosystem. Which brings me to a very old saying. If you're going by your handles, you're not necessarily known by perhaps your real-life identity. You're known by your handles. And there's a very famous New Yorker comic that says, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. And that's because most of the time when you're interacting with people online, you're pseudonymous. The second picture is actually from Facebook, when they tried to recreate that on stage at their F8 developer conference. So that brings us to the problem. Impersonation is big. This is a real example of our Telegram groups and channels. You'll see that one of them, the one on the left, has about 11,000 members. The one on the right has about 74. They visually look almost exactly alike. And there are actually people who are chatting on the other one back and forth. This was reported back to Telegram back in September 2022, but it's still around. So I'm sure many of you have encountered this scenario where somebody gets in touch with you on Telegram, on Discord, on Twitter, where they are presenting themselves as somebody perhaps that you know, or somebody who's famous within that field. I know that it's happened to me many times, where people create lookalike accounts and say like, oh, well, you know, I'm Ankur, I'm the CTO at cheqd. Here's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to invest in the project. There are examples of this on Twitter, very famously when Twitter opened up the verification policies and anybody could go buy them. Somebody created an Eli Lilly account where they said insulin is going to be free now, caused about a 5% drop in the stock price of this multi-billion-dollar company. And just again, a show of hands, like for the second sort of like, you know, thing on there, the tweet that says, here's a Vitalik Buterin giveaway. He's giving away all his money because he likes to. How many of you have encountered this on Telegram, on Twitter, and so on? So there's quite a few, like most of us in the audience have experienced that. To put it into numbers, there's approximately 500,000 accounts that Twitter suspends about every year for account impersonation. And almost exactly the same figure in other action that they take. That's from the transparency report. So this is just the ones that they detect and they take some action about. It's in their transparency report. So the numbers are actually quite large. And part of the issue is that every time you join a Telegram or a Discord channel or you're on Twitter, your reputation starts from zero. So what I've shown here is an example of like what is the Telegram channel size for some Cosmos networks, including ours, about 10,000, 14,000, 12,000 members. Every single time you join one of these channels, your reputation, your social reputation starts from zero. Because they need to be able to understand, unless they recognize your handle by name and they are aware of the kind of impersonation attacks that could be done, it's very, very hard to know if you're a bot, if you're a pretender, or if you're the actual person who's joining across. And by the way, this is it's actually quite fragmented. So that's my account on Discord, and on Telegram, my handles are completely different on those two different social media networks. So because I just couldn't get the username on Telegram that I have on Discord. So just because the text of the handle is the same across on a different service, that doesn't necessarily mean you're the original person that goes by that handle. And that starts creating more complicated challenges. We've got about 6,000 members on our Discord. Our understanding of who you are as a person is completely different. It's not joined up. And this then brings me to, especially in the Web3 space, then people come and ask me, why don't we just give people NFTs that prove their identity? It's actually a big thing. A lot of Discord servers exist where you can only join if you own items from a certain NFT collection. Soulbound tokens, a concept that came out from Vitalik as well a while ago. And it's quite common. Like there's projects like Proof of Actual Person where you'll have an NFT, and if you hold that says you are that person or you're a real human being. The problem with that is what I describe as identity herpes. Because anybody can send an NFT to your wallet at any time. I could actually say, unless you pay me $1,000 right now, I'm going to send you an NFT that says you are not a good contributor to this particular project. It is self-doxing. Once you have the NFT on-chain, you're easily able to correlate any wallet. So if people are going about publicizing their handles, and you can look what NFTs they have within that collection and what are the associated wallets, it is highly public, highly visible, highly correlatable. And in case somebody has sent you some stuff that you don't agree with or is spam, you need to spend your own tokens to go burn them. So it's kind of like the analogy that I go for. So how are we trying to solve this? We wanted to take a look at that whole holistic space, and we built this project called cheqd.xyz, which projects in Cosmos as well as non-Cosmos chains can go and use. It is built as a zero-knowledge system, and I'll explain what that means in a second. It is privacy-preserving, and we wanted to go tackle that problem around social reputation. So build your reputation, take it everywhere, make it portable. Who is it designed for? It's designed for community admins and moderators of Web3 projects, and especially Cosmos ones that we'd love to talk to and see how you could go and use it. And the other side of this equation is community members who can collect their digital reputation from their favorite projects in a portable fashion. How is it privacy preserving? Only you decide what digital credentials you share with and whom do you make them public to. They're not stored on-chain. They are stored in a decentralized zero-knowledge wallet that is backed up with end-to-end encryptions. What that means is, a bit like WhatsApp, once you lock that wallet, even us as cheqd.io or the creds.xyz team that has built it, has no access to the contents of what's inside it. And one of the key things was we did not want an app or an extension that just works in your mobile or desktop browser, although we want to expand those particular targets. How does it work? So taking through a simple journey, you start off by connecting some kind of social handle. In this example, I'll go with Discord. And once I'm logged in with Discord, it shows me what credentials that have been issued by, in this particular example, the creds.xyz project that I can go and claim. So we start off by saying, if you're able to successfully connect to that particular handle, that becomes your base or your anchor credential. You are then asked to create an end-to-end encrypted credential wallet. The way I describe it, it's a bit like 1Password or LastPass or a password manager. That will synchronize it across all of the devices that you have, but they don't know what your password is inside that particular locked vault. Right now, this goes on to a decentralized storage provider called Storage, but we want to build in the ability where any user is able to choose where they back up their credentials. And once you've done that, you're able to claim what is called a cryptographically verifiable credential. It is an international standard. And some things to sort of call out over here, you'll see that it's got my Discord handle as one of the properties in there. And you also get a link that can generate a cryptographically tamper-proof and checkable link that you can share across to other people. We've actually been talking to, I think at this point, about 30 different Cosmos and non-Cosmos communities of what kinds of reputational credentials would they want to go and issue to people. So some examples are, what is your role within that project? Are you an official moderator? Are you an official employee? Are you an official ambassador? We also wanted to look at endorsements. Endorsements could be things like, have you contributed to their code base, their documentation, content that is used by the project? Achievements. Achievements are things like, are you a token holder on the project, or are you a whale? Or are you perhaps some of the earliest members on the Discord and Telegram channel? This is sort of a key point. One of the, if you know about the decentralized identity space, it's existed for about 5 to 6 years at this point. It's not very exciting. People are often talking about putting across their KYC. Most people don't do KYC on a daily basis. They get a bank account when they're 18, and the next time they do it is when they get a mortgage. But by building in some of those mechanics of what is desirable in NFT collections, that there's a limited drop or there's a limited range of credentials that are ever in existence, we think it makes the decentralized identity aspects of it more fun, more engaging. But one of the other big use cases I've heard about this when talking to people is DAOs that want to give the ability for their members to vote, not necessarily based on the token balance or the staking balance they have. What if you want to give the ability for people who are good contributors to governance or good contributors to code, regardless of their token balance, or being able to say, if somebody owns more than 50,000 tokens, give them this weight in the voting that happens in a DAO, without necessarily revealing what is the wallet or the exact balance they have in their account wallet. You can also have things around learning journeys or learning experiences that you've done. Have you gone and learned about what decentralized identity is? You could do it for events that are held in person or online. It's a fantastic way of showing you've met up with real people and you're therefore an actual person. Or tickets. So an event like this could be issued as one of these digital credentials as well. How do you go share them? One of the big mechanisms we were working on is Discord and Telegram bots. I'll come to that in a second. But once you've gone and picked up some of these, you can choose which ones you want to share and create something called a share package. The link that you see is a bit like a Google Meet or a Zoom link that you can just copy and send across in a messenger of your choice. And whoever you send it to will land on this page where they'll be able to individually look at this collection that you've assembled and view and check that they're cryptographically untampered. It has a detail screen that allows you to go and do that. And the idea here is that regardless of whether the recipient of it is on the same network, on a different network, uses Discord or Telegram or not, you're able to go and share your reputation creds with them. And the way I describe this is, people in crypto talk about not your keys, not your crypto. I want to pivot that conversation around to not your keys, not your identity. How can you trust the credentials work, though? So at a technical level, this works by the cheqd chain on a Cosmos network where cryptographic proofs are stored. We've been going as a project for about 2 years, and we've got some of the largest decentralized identity and traditional identity vendors in the world as partners on our network. So what you store on chain is not necessarily the actual information that you were seeing on screen, because that is a privacy nightmare. What you can store, though, is signatures and other elements on chain that prove that these credentials are tamper-proof. The actual credentials themselves that you saw on screen were just stored in your browser, so they're stored off-chain, but it still allows you to go and prove and say, hey, this is the linked element that is on the cheqd network chain, and you can go and cross-match to see that the issues are correct. And it's not something that we've just cooked up and invented. It is built on international standards for decentralized identity called DIDs and verifiable credentials that come from the World Wide Web Consortium. This is the group that has basically designed HTML and the modern web as we know it. And quite a lot of companies work within the space, including some very large ones like Microsoft, like TBD, which used to be known as Block. If you've heard of the Web 5 concept, that is exactly the same thing. What else is stored on our chain? In our particular case, we expanded the concept beyond just the signatures to look at what is inside one of these credentials. What's the schema? What are a description of the contents? An analogy I use is, if you have a driver's license, there's a description that says, this field is first name, this field is last name, this is a date of birth in this particular format. So that allows people, when you go and show it to them, it allows the machine systems or APIs to understand what is inside the credential. How would you know if the issuer is trustworthy? That's where we've built a system where you can create community curated. This can be regulated by governance, trusted issuer lists. Trusted issuer lists could be a list of, here are the cryptographic identifiers of Cosmos projects on-chain, the same way that you might go and register your public keys with keybase.io on Cosmos chains so that your logo and your name shows up in a block explorer. You can do it exactly the same way, but it's stored in a decentralized fashion. And branding assets, such as logos, fonts, display images. When you were looking at the images earlier on screen, those are also stored on our chain as a copy that can be accessed, and it's not necessarily stored on a central server. How do we want to go and expand this? So this is a bit of a roadmap. We want to be able to set the share packages that you sent across. Right now, they don't have an expiry date, but we want to build in a system where you could set it to expire after a particular number of views or after a number of time. We've also been building Discord and Telegram bots because we know that people can go and fake or spoof a web page. We've been building Discord or Telegram bots that you can message and say, hey, I've been contacted by this particular handle on Telegram, and I don't know if this person's reputation is that great or if they're a scammer or not. So you can message the bot and say, go and ask this person to prove they're an official team member from a crypto exchange. Go and ask them to prove that they have contributed to code on 5 different Cosmos projects. Because it's easy to fool one particular project. It's very hard to go and ask someone to prove the same fact from multiple sources. You can always go and bribe one person. It's much, much harder to go and replicate that in many different places. And then finally, instead of just having a share package that you have to share across privately, one-to-one with people, I see this very much like NFT collections where people could have profile pages where they publicly publish some of these reputation creds that they've gathered, and some of the others they keep private, and they only share on a case-by-case basis. Now, to wrap that up, why do we feel this is important? There's a lot of research that we've done on this. If you scan the QR code, you'll be able to look up some of the details of this research. But when we did a broad survey in 2012, you can look into our methodology and the confidence levels on this data as well. About 70% of people said they have limited to no control on how the data that they share with companies gets used. But I think that's actually true for Web3 and DeFi ecosystems as well. And the existing privacy regulations aren't necessarily getting there. You could talk about things like GDPR. The only real impact I think it has had is annoying cookie banners all over the place that people just go and auto-suppress. And a lot of people think that some form of decentralized or portable identity will become prevalent in the next 5 years, but I don't think we'll get there unless we make it interesting and fun and engaging, and something that's not about your education or banking or your healthcare records. I think all of those use cases are super, super important, but you don't do that enough in your daily life. I've had to show my university degree once in my life. But you're interacting on Telegram and Discord a lot more often with people. And to wrap that up, happy to take questions. We want you to be able to take back control of your data, take back control of your reputation. We're in private beta at the moment with creds.xyz. We'd love to talk to Cosmos projects that want to go and integrate this, but also other chains. If you scan the QR code, you can sign up for an early beta access to this. We also have a workshop at 10:30 a.m. in one of the workshop rooms where we're doing a bit of a technical deep dive into how all of this strings together, some of the architecture and design challenges that we faced when going and creating this kind of zero-knowledge and privacy-preserving system. And we'd love to chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have one question from Slido. It is, what would an interchain reputation look like for Cosmos?
For Cosmos, an interchain reputation would be something similar to, let's say you're a community moderator with Osmosis. You can go and reward the types of credentials that you saw to your best community members. You can probably do that on an automated basis as well. You can connect up your bot to your Discord servers or Telegram servers and say, if this person has been around for 30 days, if this person was in the first 1,000 members, automatically go and issue a credential to them. And the next time that you go and join a different Cosmos project's Discord or Telegram servers, you'll easily be able to say, here are 5 or 10 different Cosmos projects that I've been involved in, how long have I been involved in, and be also able to prove over that sort of like history over time. And I think that is very powerful. I think we see pretty often Cosmos projects try to do things like airdrops or fair drops and events that should only be allowed for maybe some of the biggest fans in the ecosystem. And it's actually a very manual and hard problem right now. Mostly you're solving it using forms. So we just want to make that a lot more simple and easy to do.
Mm-hmm. So there's another question. How would a project issue the credentials to community members?
Very good question. So at the moment, because it's in early beta, there's an API that you can call. It's all built on open source technology that we've created over the past 2 years. But we've been building on a bit of an experience where you can go and admin portal and set up templates for what does a credential look like. This is a template for what a team member credential looks like. Some of the images that you saw on screen are also done using Midjourney, so that's one of the experiences we want to build in and say if there's an image for the credential that you'd want to issue to your community, you can just go prompt Midjourney and it will create the image for that particular thing to you. So we're pretty excited. A lot of this technology does exist with some very large names like Microsoft and Avast, and there's a whole range of companies that go and do this kind of issuance, but we don't think they've made it as fun and engaging on the community moderators and the issuer side as well.
All right, so thank you very much. Thank you, Ankur.
Thank you.